Hey!
A face from the past has rejoined the story of our prehistoric future. Now the fanbase, at the merest mention of a very few pertinent facts, has once again rejoiced at the prospects ahead. Hi, my name is Brian I, and welcome back to Jurassic Kingdom. And today we're digging into the newest morsels of information concerning the Jurassic Park franchise's direction after Dominion, and what can be done to make the series good again. Before I get started, I know a few of my viewers are wondering where the How to Fix Jurassic World video is, and the answer is almost here. As of the writing of this quick little nugget of a video, I am currently in the editing bay of what is going to be an over 1 hour long video. It's been shot and cut, but I'm adding in countless pictures and videos, and it is very time consuming. Factor in that I am still a full-time working dad, and I have just returned to school for certifications for my job. And you can see that between writing the scripts, performing them, and then editing all by my lonesome, it feels a lot like I'm piloting a paper airplane into a blizzard. That being said, this video will be really pared down and not feature a lot of bells and whistles, so I can get to some breaking news about the franchise, which doesn't amount to much more than 2 important bullet points, courtesy of an article from Variety. 1. A Jurassic Park 7/Jurassic World 4 is happening. 2. David Koepp, the screenwriter of both the original Jurassic Park and the Lost World Jurassic Park, is writing it. There are other known quantities like Steven Spielberg and Frank Marshall returning to produce, as well as the implication that this will be a new story that won't concern the primary characters from the Jurassic World movies. That last bit could change, and it would frankly be surprising if those characters did not appear at least in cameos for the next round of stories from the franchise. Those are slim details to pick through, so why even make a video? Because what I want to discuss is both where the franchise could be heading and what I hope we, the audience, get to experience. Let's start with what Universal could be shooting for with the next iteration of Jurassic Park films. The way I see it, they have a myriad of options, but here are the 4 most likely to happen. 1. A continuation of the Jurassic World as opposed to the Jurassic Park brand, where Owen Grady and Claire Dearing remain our central focus and the storylines are carried over. 2. A story that, while still existing in the universe built by the Park and World trilogies, centers around a new cast of characters and situations. 3. A prequel or trilogy of prequels set during an important untold era of the franchise, such as before or after Jurassic Park, or before Jurassic World, or really any other time that the producers feel is ripe for the picking. 4. A total reboot of the franchise that perhaps reimagines and or adapts the novels for a more grounded, gritty feel. Of the possibilities, I'm putting my money on option number... Guess in the comments below. Last chance. And number 2. It's number 2. While a reboot is really tempting, especially if it more closely adheres to the grounded sensibilities of Michael Crichton's canon, I don't see Universal completely bombing the continuity it's built over the last 3 decades to start again when Dominion, while not particularly well loved, was such a big financial success for them. So a reboot of the franchise is the least likely to happen. I would even go out on a limb and say too that it would probably not be received well by the fan base or the general public who have spent 30 years watching the same continuity and characters. As much as I would like to see prequels set in the chronology of the franchise, particularly surrounding the events at Jurassic Park, I really don't think Universal will see a fiscally viable trilogy within that time period. The franchise is about science gone wrong, and it doesn't go really wrong until the first movie happens. Perhaps an Isla Sorna trilogy happening before The Lost World, and which includes the eventual InGen abandonment of the island, may be interesting, but it might be considered too constraining for the writers to slot into the established JP canon. The second most likely to happen is a continuation of the Jurassic World trilogy. Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard are, after all, bankable stars and helped propel the franchise into very lucrative territory. However, both actors may well be done with exploring their characters, as there seems to be a note of finality in their interviews during the press tour for Dominion. I would also imagine the premium for their continued involvement would make studios think twice, as audiences seem to be growing weary of superheroes, long-running franchises, and big spectacles, and another big-budget failure could leave a bad taste in Universal's mouth. Which brings us to what I think is the most likely direction for the franchise: a movie or trilogy set in the post-Dominion world. Given that the series thus far has taken a trilogy approach, it's a safe bet Universal is sticking to this formula. Now, there's two ways they could handle this, and both have their pros and cons. The first is that the trilogy showcases largely self-contained stories, featuring different casts that may have some overarching narrative attached to the storylines. Kind of like the Jurassic Park trilogy, but with the foresight to bake in a multi-movie plot that is resolved in the final chapter. The second is more akin to the World trilogy, in which we follow 2 or 3 main characters for the entire duration of the series, and their movies' stories build up from the last one. It's kind of funny to me that this news is coming right as I'm editing How to Fix Jurassic World, because I do address the possibility of the franchise continuing in that video. And I'll just reiterate what I say there, here. Whatever path David Koepp chooses to take with this franchise, I think it is imperative that he puts his characters first. The script for Jurassic Park wasn't heavy on characterization, but it was still far and away the best character work in the entire saga. The situations felt real because the people felt real, and that meant we felt invested. And while Lost World was clearly a step backward, it's hard to blame Koepp for that when it was Steven Spielberg who pushed for the San Diego scene. I have always wondered what resolution Koepp had in store for the dynamic between Malcolm and Kelly, or what more we could have seen of the characters while they were still on the island if Spielberg had not chosen to run through the first 2 acts to get us to the mainland. It certainly did seem like that was what he was building towards by juxtaposing the Malcolm-Kelly dynamic with the relationship between the bull tyrannosaur and its infant. We know Universal can do mindless spectacle with its big-budget brands like Jurassic World and Fast and the Furious, but perhaps Universal is interested in trying their hand at pared-down installments that can be done for more reasonable investments on their ends with less well-known actors. These more character-driven action films seem to be working very well lately with critics and audiences alike, and it might be very alluring to the penny pinchers to fund a small-scale incarnation of the Jurassic universe. Smaller stakes with heavy emphasis on character has worked very well for large franchises such as Marvel, James Bond, Batman, Predator, and more. Working on the assumption that Universal will continue with its existing continuity, but focus on new or different existing characters and storylines, there are several promising avenues open to David Koepp that I personally would like to see. One is the return of one or more legacy characters who have been largely ignored by the franchise. Tim and Lex Murphy are the first that come to mind. Maybe an adventure with corporate thriller undertones as Tim and/or Lex uncover some deep conspiracy within the ranks of InGen or Masrani or even Biosyn. And while I don't see the characters of Kelly Malcolm or Zach Mitchell ever being dragged back into another dinosaur adventure, both Eric Kirby and Gray Mitchell might have been more fascinated by their experience than traumatized, and may not be opposed to a return to some dangerous situations. Heck, without knowing anything about the Chaos Theory Netflix continuation of Camp Cretaceous, we may well see Darius or other camp characters become the focus of the new trilogy. What I'm saying is that there are youngish legacy characters who are ripe for continued exploration. I mean, how cool would it be to see a trilogy where one movie involved Tim and/or Lex with Eric Kirby, followed by another with Gray and one or more of the camp kids, and finished off with a finale that includes both groups? Am I the only one who would get a kick out of that? Maybe, but still, done right, it would absolutely be a rocking time. More likely than using the legacy kids of the franchise, David Koepp and Universal may choose to just create new characters and put them into situations that may feel fresh for the audience. What about a bare-bones, alien-inspired survival film with a small cast of characters as a single dinosaur antagonist, preferably one we haven't seen before, or at least one we've seen very little of, stalks them in a confined space like a laboratory or a bunker? Another option is adapting the DX virus subplot from the Lost World novel, which I myself did in my Redux script. Shameless plug to the link in my description, wherein the spread of a deadly virus emanating from the dinosaurs and out into the larger wildlife and human population prompts a group of virologists to recruit either a legacy character or a new paleontologist character to help them track down the source of this new pathogen. That might hit a little close to home in light of the last few years, but it could be really great as they would naturally have to try testing several different specimens and species to discover patient zero. There's also the option of just keeping the vibes from Jurassic World going, with big old stakes and over-the-top action scenes, with generic characters just doing generic action stuff with some lines from the 6 previous movies making an appearance every once in a while. There are also some little nuggets of stuff I'd like to see, like the dynamic between Rexy and the buck and his doe, the return of the Spinosaurus, and I'm speaking specifically of the one from Jurassic Park 3. In fact, the return of Isla Sorna in general would be nice, considering that the Jurassic World series barely dealt with it outside of some quick lines in Dominion and a bunch of tie-in explanations. I know I said I don't like the JP3 Raptors, but I actually wouldn't mind seeing them again, especially interacting with Blue or even the Lost World tribe. More Ceratosaurs would be great, and hey, let's get Metriacanthosaurus on in here. The potential of the Jurassic Park universe, despite having 6 movies and a kids' TV show under its belt, remains bright. I want to emphasize once again that none of what I want to see will land as well with audiences if the filmmakers don't see that a long-running component of these movies, the obsession with dinosaur spectacle over characters, is wearing thin with moviegoers, and that whatever they decide to do, that the focus shifts more onto the characters experiencing the story. Through them, we can feel the intensity, we can feel the fear, we can feel the awe that the first film and some moments from the later installments gave us. And the Jurassic Park universe can continue to be a relevant part of our pop culture conversation. Maybe a new masterpiece awaits us. Maybe we will be treated to more of the same. Maybe we are headed directly for a truly disastrous stinker. Whatever it will be, you can be sure my butt will be in the seat on opening day, wearing my full Dr. Grant cosplay, prepared for the worst, but ready for the best. I hope to see you all out there too. Thanks for tuning in. I cannot wait to share how to fix Jurassic World with all of you in the next few weeks, so stay tuned for that. If you liked this video, be sure to trike stop around the keyboard to hit those like, share, and subscribe buttons, and keep an eye out beyond the How to Fix series, as I have a few more of these deep digs on the horizon I'm really excited about. My name is Brian I. This is Jurassic Kingdom. Later, nerds.